Hello, welcome to Rando Tech Info, and today we're talking about the Poco M3. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the specs and the nitty-gritty about this phone because so many YouTubers have done that already. In fact, I will recommend a couple of YouTube videos to watch about this phone if you want to know more about its performance and its specs and that kind of thing. TechSpert has a really good video about this phone, as does MKBHD. The MKBHD video is particularly significant because it talks about the price of this phone, and that's what everybody keeps talking about, is that the price that keeps getting brought up is the $129 price point for this phone, which makes this phone an excellent value. However, most people will not be able to pick this phone up for that amount. So MKBHD does a great job of going into all that and the details on what you'll probably actually wind up paying for the phone. So make sure you watch that. I'm not saying, that you shouldn't get the phone or that it's a rip-off or it's not a good value or anything like that. You're just probably not going to be able to pick it up for that $129 price point that everybody keeps putting on their thumbnails and that everybody keeps talking about. So real quick, as I often have to do with phones like this, I do have to mention that this phone is not going to be sold here in the US, nor are there any plans to sell this phone here in the US. So in order to bring it over here, you're going to have to use a third-party seller. So as always, make sure you use somebody who is reputable, and also be aware that when you bring that phone over here from the third-party seller, it will Cellular. When you bring this phone over here from the third-party seller, remember, it's going to void the warranty. So be careful with the thing. So now we've gotten to the point in the video where I am supposed to ask you for subs. So that's what I'm doing. Try not to seem so awkward this time. So will the phone work here in the US? So let's get 5G out of the way real quick. It's not a 5G phone, so there's no 5G. There. Now getting into 4G, starting with Verizon, it uses 3 out of 5 of Verizon's 4G frequency bands. So you might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's 60%. That's pretty good. Well, as is often the case with these phones from overseas, it is missing Verizon's band 13, which is Verizon's big frequency band. It's the doozy. It's the one that you really need to get reliable service in so many places with Verizon. So because it doesn't have that, it's actually probably not a no-go on Verizon, not to mention the fact that it's not certified to work on Verizon. It's not on Verizon's whitelist. So even if you did happen to live in a place where you had the coverage to use it on Verizon, it probably wouldn't work anyway. With AT&T, you have a similar story. It is not certified to work on their network. Now, sometimes phones will work on AT&T's network. Even if they're not certified, they'll still work on the 4G network. They usually won't work on AT&T's 5G network, but it will sometimes work on the 4G, but it only uses 3 out of 9 of AT&T's 4G bands. So even if it gets some reception, it's probably not going to be reliable reception, so AT&T is probably no good. Now, looking over at T-Mobile's 4G, it uses 3 out of 6 of T-Mobile's 4G bands, but it's missing band 12, which is one of their primary bands. So once again, yeah, it might work on T-Mobile depending on where you live, but if you travel, if you move around, coverage is probably not going to be great or particularly reliable. So once again, if coverage and cell reception is your primary reason for getting a phone, unfortunately on T-Mobile, it's probably not going to work too well there either. So one thing I will mention quickly, this phone is cheap enough. I do think this is relevant. So 3G. This phone can use 3G on AT&T and T-Mobile, and it uses all of their frequency bands. Now, once again, it's not certified to work on AT&T, but I think 3G will still work on an AT&T phone, even if the phone is not on AT&T's whitelist. The issue comes in that the networks are going to start dropping the 3G coverages soon, probably next year. So because the carriers are getting rid of 3G, getting a phone for its 3G coverage probably doesn't make a lot of sense right now, at least usually. This phone is cheap enough though, for under $200, that if you just wanted something that's like a stopgap, something to just use for a few months until another phone comes out that you want, then maybe this phone makes some sense for you. So 3G is there if you want it, but like I said, probably not for very long. So there you have it. Well, that's all the useful information I have today about the Poco M3. What are your thoughts about this phone? Is it cheap enough for under $200 to bring it over here just for its temporary 3G coverage, or would you just use it at home on the Wi-Fi? Let me know down in the comments. As always, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching. And until next time, this is Rando Tech Info, signing out.